As the battle begins, while battleships are still gaining speed and cruisers are deciding which flank and island to approach, the brave sailors on destroyers break forward and are the first to start fighting. Smoke, shells, torpedoes. A captain can only survive and may even emerge victorious in such chaos by possessing great experience, nerves of steel, and Mogador, the Tier 9 French destroyer. At the beginning of the 1930s, France started developing a lead destroyer that could fulfill the role of a scout in a search and strike force headed by fast battleship Dunkirk, and that would be well suited to missions in the Atlantic Ocean. As a result, they created a ship which belonged more to light cruisers than destroyers, judging by the ship's parameters. The full displacement was more than 4,000 tons, and the ship had 8 139mm guns. 2 ships of that class were built, the lead ship, Mogador, and Volta. Mogador entered service in April 1939, and in July 1940, the destroyer had to break through from the Algerian port of Mers el-Kabir. By that time, France had fallen, and the British Royal Navy launched Operation Catapult in order to destroy or capture any French ships so they wouldn't end up in the hands of the Germans. An AP shell from a British battleship hit Mogador on her rear while the destroyer was exiting the harbor. The shell overpenetrated the ship and caused her depth charges to detonate, but the destroyer didn't sink. She stayed afloat and somehow managed to get to Toulon, where she underwent repairs until November 1941. A year later, in order to avoid being captured by German forces, Mogador and other 76 French ships were sunk just around the pier of Toulon. Wipe away your tears, friends. We've recreated Mogador in World of Warships in her full battle glory, and now you can write new history with this ship. She has her specific charms. Look at this elegant bench installed at her rear. Be assured that it's not a figment of the developer's imaginations, but a real element of the ship's exterior. It's easy to imagine a young French officer resting on the bench, with a book by Jean-Paul Sartre and a glass of pastis. However, this sophistication hides incredible firepower. This is presented with an extraordinary main battery, which makes the ship a powerful artillery platform that's effective against any enemy, depending on the situation. The ship has 8 139mm guns with great ballistics and an 8-second reload time. The main battery reload booster consumable increases the firing rate of the main battery by 100%, but only for 15 seconds. However, it can be a major advantage at a crucial stage of battle. Mogador's armor-piercing shells have good penetration parameters and ballistics that allow her to crush the citadels of enemy cruisers at ranges from 8 to 10 kilometers. Keep moving to stay alive isn't such a good slogan, but it characterizes the best survival strategy that Mogador can adopt. The lack of a smoke generator consumable is made up for by the unusual characteristics of her hull. It consists of modules, each of which has a finite amount of HP. That's why she takes damage differently from other destroyers, because a destroyed part of the ship will receive just 1/6 of the damage from enemy hits. Players can improve her HP by installing the relevant module and unlocking the corresponding commander skill. Finally, let's talk about her torpedoes, because Mogador is a destroyer after all. The ship has 10 torpedo launchers placed in quite a unique manner. Each side has a couple of triple and twin-tube launchers. The torpedoes inflict decent damage and have a pretty impressive speed of 75 knots. Their only disadvantage, a range of just 8 kilometers. The torpedoes require smart implementation, so a good target in this case would be an enemy destroyer hiding behind a smoke screen not too far away, because she'll hardly be able to avoid a torpedo salvo from the French destroyer, not to mention battleships following a straight path. In conclusion, Mogador is an artillery destroyer, and her choice of tactics highly depends on the specific battle situation. Remember, the ship doesn't have a smoke generator, so she's a ship of the second line from the start of battle. When a battle becomes more or less steady-paced, and the directions for attack and defense are being determined, that's the time for the French destroyer to apply all her firepower. The best tactic for Mogador's captains is to force the enemy to fight them on their own terms, perform mighty strikes with shells, using the main battery reload booster consumable, or with torpedoes, and then escape the fight with the aid of the improved engine boost. Good luck, captains!